Well, yeah, we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm gonna go a little quicker here. But so, years in the army, love every minute of it. A couple of tours in Bosnia and Afghanistan, injuries, medical release. Medical release to me meant I was being kicked out by my family, betrayed, unwanted, unworthy, feeding the unworthiness. Right, I'm no good to anybody anymore. Joined corrections for the province of Alberta because it meant um, cortisol, stress, and also because I deeply believe I was nothing more than a weapon and could never be good for anything other than violence at that point. And I needed a job where I had a sort of paramilitary feel, it's not outright military, and I needed a job where I wouldn't be leaving my wife at the time again for any period of time because she was dying. She was starving herself to death from her own illness. And we were both very, very, very lost in pain and misery, couldn't find one another anymore. And she starved to death. She starved first of love and affection, and then she starved herself of food. So, um, so she died on November
I'm,
4th.
I'm sorry. I'm really
I,
sorry. And I appreciate you sharing,
you
Sheridan.
know,
I want to say God rest her soul.
I'm sure, I'm sure he is. Um, she stops by once in a while on real important days. On this fourth was the 10-year mark, and she stopped in for a minute. It was nice. Um,
That's
yeah,
powerful.
so lost my identity, lost my wife, the center of my universe, the entirety of my world, lost my mind. Um, seemed fitting, right? But don't need it anymore. Um,
Well, I mean, anyone in that circumstance is not, we're not meant to be able to be okay during the most difficult times in our lives. That's why we need a community and a support system.
if I had learned emotional intelligence and practiced the tools of resilience from childhood, it's very, very likely I would have done a lot better than I did because I tried to do what I always do and not feel. Well, I can't not feel the loss of the only human I love. So instead, I went crazy. Um, probably. But then that's the second time.
I'm so glad you're able to share your story, Sheridan. I just want to say you inspire me and you're saving lives. And sadly, you've had to experience so much pain. And the fact that you're able to use that now to save lives is the bravest thing out there in the world. And you know, I'm just honored. I'm really honored that we're connected and that you're sharing your story on our podcast.
I thank all the powers of the universe, whatever you give it, whatever name you use, I thank it constantly for the pain it gave me because that made me get through it, become better. And you're right. You're right, Heather. I save lives now. So yeah, you know what? I went through some shit and it sucked, but I went through the shit and then and now I tell you, you can too. And how do I do it? Well, I found the courage to be vulnerable. Vulnerable isn't weak. Vulnerable is the greatest act of courage a human has. And I found that courage. Why? Because, yes, fast forward to 2016, I have a new wife, and we have a child. Um, so I had, at the time, I felt two options to save him from becoming me. Option one, and the most obvious and clear one, was kill myself. I was already in that state from Dixie's death, my first wife, her death. I was already suicidal. I've been planning the suicide for quite a time, and getting rid of everything I owned and all the stuff and the things, the classic symptoms. Um, but I couldn't because I couldn't find a home for all three of her dogs. So until I could find a home, the right home for all three dogs, I couldn't check out. So never happened. And then my current wife, Danette, comes into my life, takes over, saves it, gets knocked up. Um, and then I have a son, the first. So I got to save him from me. So I go to kill myself. It's obvious, simple logic. Threat, eliminate threat. Threat, eliminate me. Save my child from the greatest threat in his life, me. Problem, I don't I don't want to not see him. And I can't stand the idea of not being part of raising him and with my wife. I'm abandoning my responsibilities. I recognize now there's love in there too, but at the time it was all about responsibility and duty. That's all I knew. So what got me through? Responsibility and duty,
Service.
service, because service is what gets everyone through. Human beings need to feel we are of service. That gives us worth and value, and that gives our life purpose. My pain is tolerable, bearable. I'm grateful for it now because it serves a goddamn purpose, and I am grateful for that.